My name is Ava. Ava Walker. I'm 33, live in a tiny one-bedroom in Chicago, and for most of my life, I believed I wasn't enough. Not pretty enough. Not smart enough. And definitely not rich enough. I grew up in Taylor, Michigan, 15 minutes from Detroit, but it might as well have been another world. Our house always smelled like old heating vents and frozen dinners. Mom worked 3 jobs: waitress, cleaner, cashier, and still barely kept the lights on. And Dad? He left when I was 8. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't send birthday cards. Didn't even call after my high school graduation. I used to think he left because we were too much, too loud, too messy, too poor. But later I realized he left because we were inconvenient. That's the kind of stuff that sticks with you. Not like a wound. More like a weight you forget you're carrying. Until someone makes you feel seen, and suddenly, you panic that they're looking too closely. By the time I was in my 20s, I'd mastered the art of being normal. Not happy, not whole, just acceptable. I had a freelance job designing PowerPoint decks for corporate clients I never met. Enough money to pay rent and eat. Not enough to matter. But I learned to fake it. Neutral nails. Polished social media. Wardrobe curated from Goodwill, but styled like Nordstrom. I wasn't lying. Not really. I just learned how to dress my life up in better lighting. And then came him. You know that feeling when someone walks into the room and the air shifts? Like gravity moved? That was him. He wasn't loud or flashy. He had this effortless calm, like a man who always got what he wanted, but never needed to prove it. He walked into the coffee shop where I was working on a project, sat 2 tables down, ordered oat milk latte, and I swear my brain short-circuited. He looked like he belonged on a magazine cover. Or maybe a TED Talk. I looked like I hadn't washed my hair in 2 days. But somehow, we talked. 4 hours. He was funny, sharp, magnetic. He asked what I did. I said I ran a creative consulting brand. Technically, not a lie. Just slightly prettier than the truth. He said he worked in tech. Venture capital. Something with a dozen zeros in it. When he asked for my number, my stomach did that stupid flip thing like I was 17 again. That night, I looked in the mirror and I knew. If I wanted to keep this, if I wanted to keep him, I couldn't just be me. Not the girl from Taylor. Not the girl who watched her mom cry over a past-due gas bill while microwaving canned ravioli. I had to become her. The kind of woman a man like him could fall in love with. Not just once, but fully. Our second date was set for Friday. He texted. Got us a reservation at Belmore. Hope you like seafood and rooftop views. Belmore. I'd never even walked by Belmore. I Googled the place. Prefix. $195 per person. Before drinks. Before tax. Before tip. My Chase balance? $34.12. I sat on the edge of my bed in my too small apartment, staring at the cracked ceiling like it owed me answers. I couldn't say no. I couldn't say, hey, actually I usually just DoorDash Chinese and watch Netflix alone. I couldn't be that girl. So I became her. I opened a new credit card, the emergency one I told myself I'd never use, and went shopping on Michigan Avenue like I had a damn Amex Platinum. The dress I chose was dangerous. Black, sculpted, the kind that whispered money. $472. I nearly threw up when I saw the tag, but I said the same thing my mom used to say when she bought off-brand cereal and ripped the box open with fake confidence. If you're gonna fake it, at least commit. I still remember the way I looked in that store mirror. For a second, I believed it. Believed I was her. The woman who didn't flinch at designer price tags. The woman who knew the difference between sable and taupe. The woman who didn't need to Google the wine list. And then, as I zipped the dress back into its garment bag, I had this memory. I was 9. Mom was working late, and I was alone in the apartment. I tried on her lipstick, her earrings, even clipped her name tag from the diner onto my t-shirt. I looked at myself in the mirror and said, one day, I'll be someone. And now here I was, 33, still playing dress up, still praying no one would notice the tags. That Friday night, I walked into Belmore like I belonged. He stood when he saw me, smiled like I'd just rearranged the stars. "You look," he exhaled. "Damn." I thanked him, even though my feet were already blistering in those too tight heels from Rent the Runway. The hostess greeted him by name. The waiter offered us the tasting menu, and I smiled and nodded like I wasn't calculating how long I could survive on ramen after this. He talked about his last trip to Aspen, about launching a startup, about his friend buying a lake house in Michigan, not far from Detroit, but actually nice. I laughed. I laughed like I hadn't grown up 10 minutes from there, in a house where the heat worked sometimes. He looked at me, eyes soft. "Your energy's different," he said. "You don't chase. You don't need to prove anything. It's rare." And I thought, if only you knew how hard I'm trying to seem like I'm not trying at all. When he dropped me off, I smiled the whole ride home. And the second the door shut behind me, I took off that dress like it was on fire. My feet were raw. My head was pounding. My card was maxed out. But for one night, I belonged. Or at least, I looked like I did. Next time, he invites me to a weekend in the Hamptons. And I say yes. Of course I say yes. But what would you do if the lie you built started feeling safer than the truth? The Hamptons. He picked me up in a matte black Tesla that smelled like leather, cedar, and money. No GPS. No questions. Just confidence and chill indie music through speakers that probably cost more than my rent. He looked at me like I was the prize. And I, like the idiot I was becoming, felt chosen. We pulled into a gated driveway of a beach house that looked like it belonged in an Architectural Digest spread. Whitewashed wood. Ocean view. Massive glass doors that slid open without a sound. He tossed his keys into a ceramic bowl and said, "Home away from home." I laughed like it was cute. Inside I was panicking. Because the beach bag slung over my shoulder? It was from Target. And the sandals I wore were knockoffs from Amazon with a glue smell that refused to die. He handed me a glass of wine without asking what I wanted. Poured himself one too. We sat on the deck. The Atlantic stretched out in front of us like a secret you didn't want to tell anyone. And that's when it happened. He opened up. Really opened up. Talked about his parents' divorce. How his mom used to cry into her wineglass at 2 a.m. How he never stayed in one place too long because stability felt like a trap. He wasn't perfect. He was cracked in places that matched my own. And that scared me more than anything. Because up until then, this was just performance. I was playing a role. Putting on the dress, the heels, the tone. But now, I wanted to stay. Not because he was rich, but because when he looked at me, I felt like the version of myself I always dreamed I could be. Not Ava from Taylor who grew up on food stamps, but Ava with poise, with charm, with love that didn't need translating. He looked over the edge of his wineglass and said, "You're different. You make it easy to breathe." And I felt something twist in my chest. Because the lie was no longer for show, it was for survival. That night, in the guest room I pretended not to be impressed by, I sat on the bed and opened my banking app. Overdraft. Maxed out card. Payment due on the dress. Balance. Minus $187.43. I stared at the screen while he made us late-night pasta in the kitchen. Real pasta. Hand-rolled. Imported. And in that moment, I made the decision I would regret for a long time. I'd keep going. Keep playing. Just a little longer. Because maybe, just maybe, I could become the woman I was pretending to be. A month in. 4 dates. 3 sleepovers. 2 Sunday brunches. 1 spontaneous jazz night in the West Loop. And I was in. He held my hand in public. Texted every morning, "Good luck with your design pitch today, superstar." Called me his person. And I was still Ava Walker. But now with better shoes and a mounting balance on 3 credit cards. I started thinking maybe I could pull this off. Maybe I could ride this lie all the way into love. And if he loved me enough, maybe it wouldn't matter where I came from. His birthday was coming up. He mentioned in passing that he'd been eyeing a rare Mont Blanc pen. Something sentimental. Said his dad had one just like it before he walked out. I Googled it. $780. I had $42, but I could not get it. Not when I'd built this version of myself who could. So I did what desperate people do in polished lives. I borrowed. High-interest loan. 28%. 2 clicks. 1 signature. Shame included. The pen arrived in a velvet box. I wrapped it in crisp white paper, tied with black satin ribbon. When I handed it to him, he looked at me like I'd given him a memory. He actually choked up. Said, "No one's ever done something like this for me before." He kissed me like it meant something deeper. And I told myself it was worth it. That night, we lay on his couch, watching The Social Network for the millionth time. I was curled up in a throw blanket that cost more than my entire bedding set. He looked over and said, "You're kind of a mystery, Ava." I froze. "What do you mean?" He smiled. "I don't know. You're so composed. Like, put together. But sometimes I catch you spacing out. Like you're somewhere else." I forced a laugh. "That's probably just my creative brain melting down." He nodded, but I saw it, the pause. The flicker of something in his eyes. A crack. He didn't press. But the energy had shifted. The lightness had a shadow. And I knew, the more I gave him, the more I was risking. But if I pulled back, the entire version of us might collapse. When I got home, I sat in the shower until the water ran cold. I stared at the wall like it had answers. I had no idea how long I could keep doing this. But I knew one thing. I was in too deep to stop. Next time, he says he wants to see where this is going. He asks me to move in. And suddenly, the fairy tale becomes a threat. He said it on a Tuesday. We were curled up on his sectional, eating Thai takeout from real plates, not the plastic containers like I was used to. He had jazz on low in the background, barefoot, hair slightly messy, looking more like a Calvin Klein ad than a man who just pitched to a board of investors that morning. Then he looked at me, soft and sure, and said, "I've been thinking. You should move in." Just like that. Like it was simple. Like it wasn't a bomb dropped on a foundation made of borrowed clothes, fabricated confidence, and emotionally sponsored debt. I smiled, sipped my wine, swallowed hard. "Wow, that's a big step." He nodded. "It just feels right. We spend most nights together anyway. You could keep doing your freelance from the guest room until you find an office. I'd love to wake up next to you every day." I laughed. It came out hollow. Because I couldn't move in. I couldn't bring me into this world. What was I gonna do? Move my IKEA desk and fake leather tote into his designer loft and hope he never noticed? I was drowning in debt. Behind on loan payments. My phone screen was cracked. My business was 3 part-time clients and a Canva subscription. I wasn't his equal. I was his illusion. And if I said yes, I'd have to either come clean or double down. So I lied. Again. I'd love to, just not yet. I've got some projects coming up. And I'm still figuring out a few things. He looked disappointed. Just for a second. Then he smiled and said he understood. But I could feel it. The first shift. The first silent question. The first second guess. That night, I laid awake in my own bed for the first time in a week. I looked around. Chipped paint, rattling radiator, a dying houseplant on the windowsill. The place I was trying so hard to escape. But it was mine. And for a terrifying second, I missed it. Not because it was better, but because it was honest. The next day, my credit card got declined at Walgreens. I was trying to buy toothpaste. $3.79. The cashier looked at me with that smile people give when they think they're better than you. And I felt it. The heat. The shame. The scream in my throat I couldn't let out. Because you can rent the look. You can curate the brand. But eventually reality shows up at checkout. I was living 2 lives. And sooner or later, one of them had to die. Next episode. He starts asking questions. She starts avoiding. And the truth? It's not just knocking anymore. It's kicking down the door. Would you come clean? Or keep lying? If it meant keeping love, it didn't unravel with a bang. No dramatic confrontation. No shouting in the rain. Just a notification. A stupid little ping. We were sitting on his couch again. Sunday afternoon. His laptop open, mine in my lap. He was reviewing pitch decks. I was pretending to review a client brief that didn't exist. Then my phone buzzed. Default screen. Bright white. One line of text. Final notice. Payment required immediately. Your balance is overdue. He glanced over. Didn't even say anything at first. Just paused. Brows slightly furrowed. Voice calm. Everything okay? My throat went dry. I locked the screen and smiled like it was a spam text. Oh yeah, just junk. Student loan stuff. They love to scare you. He nodded. Slowly. But the air had shifted. He looked at me. Not past me. Not through me. At me. Ava, are you in some kind of trouble? And that was the moment. I could have told the truth. Could have said, yes, I'm in over my head. I built this version of myself for you, and now I don't know how to go back. But I didn't. I said, no, I'm fine. Just, you know how it is. He didn't nod this time. He didn't smile. He just went quiet. That night, I went home early. He kissed my forehead, but not my lips. Closed the car door softly, not like usual. No teasing text 5 minutes later. No, already miss you. Just silence. The next day, I woke up to a voicemail. Hey, I've been thinking. I don't know what's real with you. And that's not a great place to build from. He didn't say he was angry. Didn't accuse. Just sounded tired. I care about you. I just don't know who I care about. I sat on the floor for over an hour. Still in my coat. Phone in my hand. Heart cracked open like an overripe peach. I had lied so beautifully. I made him fall in love with someone who didn't exist. And now, I wasn't sure I existed anymore. You ever lose someone? Not because they stopped loving you, but because they never really knew you to begin with? Next episode, the aftermath. She's alone. Broke. Stripped down. But for the first time, she's real. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. The thing about losing everything? It's quiet. No dramatic music. No camera pan. Just silence. And the buzz of a cheap refrigerator in a dim apartment at 2 a.m. After he left, I didn't call. Didn't beg. Didn't send a long text explaining myself. Because for the first time in months, I was too tired to perform. The first week was brutal. I had to sell the dress. Cut up the credit card. Cancel subscriptions I didn't need but kept to feel normal. I went back to my actual clients. The small ones. The real ones. One of them even referred me to a friend. Not glamorous, but honest. I started walking again. Just walking. With no place to impress, no heels to blister me, no eyes to catch. And in one of those walks, I passed a cafe window. Saw a girl, 20-something, perfect makeup, fresh nails, scrolling through Instagram while sipping a lavender oat latte. And I thought, she doesn't feel like enough either. Weeks passed. No word from him. No dramatic return. Just life. I never told him the full truth. He never asked again. But I like to think he figured it out. Maybe not the details, but the essence. And maybe he didn't hate me for it. Maybe he was like me too, just trying to become someone a little shinier than the damage we carried. The truth? I still think about him. When I pass by Belmore. When jazz comes on. When I open a bottle of wine I didn't have to lie to afford. I wonder if he ever tells someone. I once loved a woman who wasn't what she claimed. But God, she made me feel alive. Now I write this from my couch. It's lumpy. The spring pokes me in the thigh. But it's mine. I'm not rich. I'm not perfect. But I'm no longer pretending. I'm Ava. Still standing. Still trying. And for once, that feels like enough. Thank you for listening to my story. I know it wasn't perfect, and if you notice mistakes, please let me know. The voiceover was made using AI, and your feedback helps me grow. And if this touched you even a little, please consider subscribing. It means the world to me, and it gives me the strength to keep writing stories like this one. Would you forgive someone who lied just to be loved? Or have you ever done the same?